Okay, the next interesting topic in international law is the United Nations or the UN. So you realize that with the UN, after World War II, the states had to sit down and agree to come up with a law that will regulate, to come up with a body that will regulate uh, peace or maintain peace. And they had to come up with the UN. Which UN now, when it came to, they had to, or it came way back following the San Francisco, I think, treaty or declaration that is in the US. So at the time of sitting, a few members signed the treaty. So the few members that signed the treaty are known as the original members. Then with time, various members had to come in who had to ratify to the UN Charter. Currently, there are around 193 members of the UN Charter, with I think the latest being South Sudan joining. So there are around 193 members of the UN Charter. So with UN, it was formed to maintain peace. They had to come up with the UN Charter, which regulates that. So what you have to know about UN, we have to know the membership of UN. So with UN membership, you have to look at Article 3 of the UN Charter, which tells us the original members. These are the members that ratified or that signed the UN Charter at San Francisco. That is when UN was being formed. So those are the original members of UN. Then there are these permanent members of UN. The permanent members of UN, these are the members that don't leave. For them, they are there. They can include, there are 5 actually. There is China, there is USSR, there is USA, there is Great Britain. There are around 5 members. Then the other members that have kept on joining. So you should know the membership of UN. Now this UN, when it was formulated, it had to be distributed in 2 organs. So for you to clearly understand the organs of UN, you must know that these organs were the General Assembly, the Secretariat, the Security Council, the Trusteeship Council, and then the Economic and Social Council, and also the ICJ. So you see that the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is also an organ of the UN. So the International Court of Justice, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the General Assembly are all the organs of the UN when you look at provisions of Article 7 of the UN Charter. So even if there are various organs of the UN, we have to concentrate on a few organs. That is the major organs. So we are going to concentrate on the General Assembly. We have to know what is the General Assembly, who is a member or who comprises the General Assembly, what is the role of the General Assembly. Then we have to also look at the Security Council. What does it do? How many members sit in the General Assembly? What is its role? Then we shall also look at the ICJ, that is the International Court of Justice. So we are going to begin with the General Assembly. So the General Assembly is provided for under Article 9 of the UN Charter. So when you look at Article 9, we have to determine who is the member of the General Assembly. So the General Assembly, all members of the UN, which we have said that they are currently 193, are members of the General Assembly. But when you look at provisions of Article 9 of the UN Charter, out of the 193, all being members, each member, for example, if Uganda is a member of UN, it has to send 5 representatives to sit in the General Assembly. So you'll find that the General Assembly has a lot of people in it because each member is entitled to sit in the General Assembly and each member has to send representatives not exceeding 5. So the composition is that every member sits there and sends the representatives of the General Assembly. So the duties of the General Assembly are quite big. They are in Article 10 going upwards, but realize that the major duty is they sit and decide on matters of involving maintenance of peace. They choose what to do, they choose on how the UN will operate. Basically, it's like the parliament. They discuss matters relating to relationships, peace, among others. So they make important decisions in the UN. Then the second organ of the UN is the Security Council. I think this one is very important. The Security Council, as you hear Security Council, we have seen that the UN has a duty to maintain peace, but how will it maintain peace? So it has an organ which is known as the Security Council. So when you look at provisions of Article 23 of the UN Charter provides for the Security Council. So the Security Council comprises of 11 members. 11 members. But with the 11 members, 5 are permanent members. What do I mean by permanent members? For them, they don't leave. They are permanent members. They are 5. That is China, Russia, USA, Great Britain, what the other one is what, but they are 5 members, permanent. For them, they don't leave. Then, when you look at Article 23 again, the total is 11, but 5 are permanent. Then 6 are non-permanent members. And these 6 non-permanent members are always brought into, or they are voted into, by the General Assembly. So it is the General Assembly that appoints the 6 non-permanent members to join the Security Council. And these 6 non-permanent members, they sit or they be in the Security Council for a period of 2 years. Now, when 2 years elapse, the General Assembly has to appoint other non-permanent members. So in total, there are 11 members in the Security Council. So you realize that while voting, they all have to vote. While voting, they all have to vote on a decision or on a matter. However, for a decision to pass in the Security Council, it must be of 7 affirmative votes. But with the 7 affirmative votes, at least all the permanent members should agree. But there must be an affirmative vote of 7 members who should agree on something. So the question is, what is the role of the Security Council? When you look at provisions of Article, I think 24, it will tell you that the role of the Security Council is majorly to maintain peace. Its role is to maintain peace where someone is trying to sabotage with international peace. So we should know, how does the Security Council handle or deal with its affairs? When you look at Article 39, before Security Council comes up to make a decision, Article 39 tells us that, Article 39 of the UN Charter tells us that the UN should always maintain peace, or the Security Council should ensure in a peaceful maintenance. So it should not rush to measures in Article 41 and Article 42. So there are harsh measures in Article 41 and 42. But before it goes for that, it should ensure that peace is maintained. Now, when you read provisions of Article 40 of the UN Charter, Article 40 of the UN Charter will proceed and tell you that the UN Charter, the UN, before it unleashes its mandate in Article 40 and 41, in Article 41 and 42, Article 40 tells them that they should first ensure that these 2 states, or the conflicting states, go through provisional measures. Basically, they sit down and agree, negotiate, among others. Now, where they fail to agree in these provisional measures, then Article 41 applies. When these parties fail, or where a party is continuously violating international peace, then you should not rush to throw bombs. No, you now proceed to Article 41. Now, this Article 41, the UN Security Council will have to use peaceful methods first. For example, it can impose sanctions, among others, but don't rush into armed forces affairs. So Article 41, before you rush to 42, first go into now peaceful methods that don't involve armed affairs, such as blockades, sanctions, among others. Now, when you realize that the person is continuing to violate international peace, now that's when you'll proceed under Article 42. That's now you're going to use armed affairs. You're now going to fight. You'll have to gather, or you, when Security Council, will now have to gather at the various organs, or the various members will now have to send forces to form the joint UN force, now which will now attack that country or that person in order to maintain peace. So all members contribute to the Security Council. So many people have criticized the Security Council. One, it lacks an army. So it just gathers. America, you send, Uganda send, among others. So that is how the Security Council operates. Then the other organ, which is one of the important organs in the UN, is what we call the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice